Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fairmount York Rite Chapter podcast. And today we'll be talking about what is York Rite? Who is it for? Should it be for you? And what can you expect out of it? I am companion Adipone. Today I have with me excellent companion Oscar Lopez. And he is very, very popular in our jurisdiction for his tutoring abilities, and he's been recognized for that. He's not a fan of accolades, but trust me, he deserves a lot of them due to his merit. And he has a great presentation that he usually does, but today we thought we'd talk to you about the York Rite in a conversational format to have you listen in and be a part of the conversation and learn. So welcome, excellent companion, Oscar.
Thank you very much, companion Adrian, for the invitation. And actually, about what you were saying, that I would like to be considered like a brother. I'm not a guy who's looking any ranks or titles. I believe more in the possibility of inspire without a title. So even in lodges, when they present me as a worshipful brother, I just say, I'm just a brother. I'm your brother. And here I am, your companion, which actually at the end, we can talk a little bit between the difference between a brother and a companion, which is, I believe, is meaningful.
Excellent.
And thank you for having me here.
Pleasure. First time is going to be fun. We're going to figure out the kinks in it, but hopefully we'll use this as an example for others to take the model of this and do their own thing. So first off, the question number one I have for you here is, let's start simple. Why should somebody consider joining the York Rite?
Look, Adrian, the York Rite is where things start to click. It doesn't just build on what you have already received. It connects the dots. If you have ever felt like there's more to the story, I believe the York Rite is where you'll find it.
Mm-hmm. The story of Hiram Abiff, or the story of their self-development, the story of their journey, all of the above.
Yes, we learned a lot on the Blue Lodge, but there are holes that are, let's say, we can discover why those holes are on the Blue Lodge on the York Rite.
Mm-hmm. Is this for a Mason who's looking for better understanding, essentially what you're saying? Somebody who wants to go deeper, not just in the philosophy, but in how everything they've already done ties together, essentially is what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe the York Rite speaks to the Mason who is asking, why did I do this? What does it mean? It's for those not content with surface level ritual. You'll explore not just philosophy, but continuity, the unfolding of the craft, spiritual and historical journey. It's just as you are doing a master's degree. So just look the Blue Lodge is our 3 first degrees. When you become a Master Mason, it is like you are a lawyer, but then you can do master's degrees and you will learn more about specific things. Mm-hmm. But you are still a lawyer. That's why we said there is not rank beyond Master Mason. And these bodies, as the York Rite, we can be looked as master degrees.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So essentially you're saying somebody can have their full education, become a Master Mason already, and then when they want to go deeper and specialize into one area, like you said, one area of law, then they can become a criminal lawyer, or they can become a family lawyer, or a state lawyer. They can specialize in one thing. So the York Rite helps them to kind of specialize in whatever it is that they're more interested in. And it could be, like you said, the historical part. It could be the part about the ritual. But most importantly, for myself personally, and I think you enjoy this as well, it's the esoteric part of what everything really means and helps to bring that together. From a historical point of view, where does the York Rite sit in the larger Masonic timeline?
Well, the York Rite is one of the oldest and most traditional extensions of the craft Masonry. Much of the York Rite content predates the formalization of the third degree. And actually, some scholars see it as preserving older layers of the tradition that got trimmed or compressed in the Blue Lodge. That's why the York Rite is said sometimes that is the most purest kind of ritual that we can find nowadays.
It's very interesting that you say that. I've also traveled a bit. I've been to lodges that do emulation like we do here in Quebec. I've been to places that do Scottish rite versions of it. And also there's York Rite, go to South America. And it's interesting to see that when you do this York Rite body, you do get a better understanding of the story of what happens.
It is very important to clarify here that the York Rite is not only part of higher degrees, not even the Scottish Rite. So the Scottish Rite and the York Rite, they have also the 3 first degrees. We here in Quebec, because we are part of the Commonwealth and we work on their emulation works. So we can see the York or the Scottish as different, but actually are not different. It's a continuation. So on the Scottish Rite, you can go have your first, second, and third degree, and then go to the highest until your 32nd. And it's the same of the York Rite. After your Master Mason degree, you can continue. Just to put it simple, most of lodges in the United States, for example, they work under the York Rite. While, as I mentioned before, countries that are part of Commonwealth are more with the emulation works. In South America, Africa, Asia, Europe works mainly on the ancient accepted Scottish Rite, the 3 first degrees. Right now in Quebec, we're so fortunate because we have almost all kind of rites, which the difference of the rites complement the learning because it's the same story but told in a different way. So when you learning in a way, then you go and see it in another kind of rite, the exactly same degree. So you understand the will comes more deep, more profound, more solid, the base of your knowledge.
And the York Rite that we're talking about here in Capitular Masonry, we're talking about the journey of somebody going from the entered apprentice, the fellow craft, into the Master Mason. But that part of the fellow craft is really there's more to that picture. So how does the historical focus change or deepen someone's understanding about that period? How does it shed more light on that period?
Well, I believe it makes Masonry feels like less like isolated degrees and more like chapters in a book. So you have more chapters. It's like a second season. When you're looking at a Netflix series, or then you're just waiting for what happened next. So it's like the movies also. Sometimes what would happen next? You don't know. And when, for example, George Lucas have another Star Wars, then you say, okay, wow, I want to see, what the person says. So, when you see how everything fits, it's like rereading the first few pages of a novel and then realizing that all the clues were already there. But we passed through those degrees, and I'm so amazed how those rituals are so deep that can condense philosophies of years. It is like you read Plato and Aristotle's, everything at the same time, so which are huge books, but everything is condensed. So it's so deep that it's impossible just to catch everything in one single time. So you have to see it several times, study, and actually participate in degrees to start grasping the real meaning. So when the advantage that the York Rite has is that because you are filling some holes, those holes will help the Mason to when they go look back to the second degree, as you mentioned, they will understand more the second degree.
Yeah.
And also, the York Rite, I believe, gives depth to the Master Mason degree itself, as illuminates some gaps also in the Hiramic legend and shows how the journey continues beyond what we thought was the end.
I really love how you have explained that. You gave several illustrations there that were beautiful. The one about how it's a mystery, and when you go back when you reach the end, you solve the mystery. But when you look back at it, some of the clues were there all along, and also gives you better understanding of what you've been through in all three degrees of the Blue Lodge. It's really beautiful. We often hear the expression that Masonry is a beautiful system of allegory illustrated by symbols, and morality and things like that. Well, when we understand these symbols and we understand what they mean a little more, and we come back to the story again, we understand what we've been through more, and we can have a better appreciation of what we've been through. Yeah.
Actually, when you mentioned that about the definition of Masonry, and it is about symbols. Symbols are beautiful because I can give you a definition, but that will be my definition or my interpretation of the symbol. But when candidates and all of us at some point we were presented to symbols, it's our own interpretation. So sometimes, we think in words, but we dream in symbols. So it's the meaning that you can put to anything. So doesn't matter. Yes, probably there are symbols that has a general explanation, but each individual have the opportunity through symbology to put their own meaning. And that is how that symbol will be impactful and powerful in their own life.
Yeah. You could have your own appreciation, your own understanding of that symbol. And I can definitely relate to that. That was definitely my experience as well, going through the additional degrees of the York Rite. So switching up the conversation here, another question for you. Yeah. How is, for someone who's never been through it, how is the York Rite actually structured? So we talked about the first three degrees of Blue Lodge. What is their first step into York Rite, and how is the York Rite structured?
Well, again, I would like to be clear about that, because we said that the chapter of Royal Arch is the first body, which is not. The first body is always the Blue Lodge, because we're talking about York Rite, and Blue Lodge is part of the York Rite. So, as I say, most lodges in the United States are working the first three degrees on the York Rite. We have in Quebec 3 lodges that work under the York Rite. So that is the first body of the York Rite, the Blue Lodge. But then, doesn't matter where you got your first 3 degrees, in Scottish Rite, Emulation, York, Rectify, you can step on directly on the York Rite. That is beautiful. So that is when we said, remember at the beginning that we were talking about master degrees? So it's like your first master degree will be the chapter, which is capitular masonry. And that the culmination with that is the Royal Arch. And when you become a Royal Arch Mason, probably, I believe, is the most powerful moment when you can connect everything. Then the Royal Arch also has another story, because you start to doing question after you finish the Royal Arch degree. Okay, why this happened? How did this happen? And if you want to find some historical answers, you can go to the Council of Cryptic Rite, which on the stairs it will be looked at as the second body of the York Rite. And with that, I believe it complete the whole cycle of the story about the temple of King Solomon. Then we have another body, but in history we go years and years in the future after, and we start the other body, which is the Commandery. On the Commandery, we have 3 other degrees, and the final one, the third on the Commandery, is the famous or popular Knight Templars that a lot of brothers or people want to know about the Knight Templars because they could be a link between the Knight Templars and speculative Masonry. So the transition from operative Masonry to a speculative Masonry, so how the Knight Templars were in the middle to work with that transformation.
Okay, thank you for that. And also, just to give everybody a very clear understanding, so first there would also be the Mark Master Mason degree. And then they would have
when you enter into the chapter, you have degrees. You have degrees on the Cryptic, and you have those degrees in the Commandery. So yes, and the chapter, as you mentioned, yes, we start with the Mark Master Mason degree. We have the Most Excellent Master, and then the Royal Arch. But it's important for everybody to hear this, that the structure we're talking now is the Quebec structure. That could be different in other jurisdictions. For example, in UK, they don't have they are not degrees by itself. They are bodies. So they have a lodge of Mark Master Mason, and they have the chapter of Royal Arch only with 1 degree in each, and they don't present the Most Excellent Master degree. In United States, they have another extra degree, which is the virtual past master degree, which we don't have it here. There are different reasons why, but it's important to clarify that, depending on the jurisdiction. But yes, here in Quebec, as I believe in Canada, we have 3 amazing degrees. The Mark Master Mason, which I love all the degrees of the chapter. I have to say, I have done the 2 structures to the end, and the capitular Masonry, the degrees for me are just the top of the top.
Yes, they are. Let's talk about those degrees a little bit more, as people that are listening probably have never done the degrees, or they want to know what the difference is from the degrees to other bodies. One word that comes up a lot is interactive. The degrees are very interactive. People get involved. People on the side get involved. There's a lot more action happening. Maybe you can hint a little bit or talk a little bit about that, how they are a little bit, how they're interactive and what the experience of the degrees are.
Absolutely. One beauty of the capitular Masonry, of the degrees in capitular Masonry, is that they involve real participation. Sometimes physical, sometimes reflective. But not the candidate, not the officers, not the members are just spectators. Everybody is part of the unfolding drama. Actually, there are moments where you truly experience the lesson, not just hear it. And that is amazing. Everyone participates. Nobody is sitting for the whole ceremony. Everybody participates in one way or another and makes that more beautiful and powerful.
It is very beautiful. Not to talk too much about other bodies, but I am in some other bodies. And in the ritual work, you'll sit down on the side for 8 months and you're not in the chair. You're not in a position. You're just sitting there watching for 8 months. And there's a different type of experience you have in the York Rite, where first you are the candidate and you go through it yourself, and then you get to reenact it. Maybe the next meeting or a month later, you get to reenact it and be a part of it. And you might see it 2 or 3 times in a year and experience it in a different way. And it seeps into your subconscious, and you have a different relationship with the experience because you get to live it over again. It's really a beautiful thing. How you said it's performative. It's very performative. It's very interactive. And it's functional. You reflect, like how you said, you get to reflect on it in a different ways, and you get to experience it different ways. And I think that is really what one of the key highlights that would draw anybody back into or draw them into the York Rite. On that same note, the chapter is one of the first times that we work with Masons from other lodges. And how does that change the dynamic? It's the first time maybe you see somebody in another lodge you've never work with them before. This is the first time. How does that change everything? What's that like?
This, I love it. I love this because it broadens your perspective. You realize that Masonry is like a living network, not just your home lodge. So there are people who visit a lot. We call that to exercise our landmark number 14, which is the right for every Mason to sit in every regular lodge. And I love it. But sometimes even you visit and you know brethren from other lodges, and you can connect, you have same values, become friends, but you not necessarily work together. So chapter give you that opportunity to work with other brethren from different lodges and with the maturity that already a Master Mason should have. Mm-hmm. So you form deeper bonds, and the discussions often go further because everyone is there with intent. Those who are in the capitular Masonry for the good reasons and not just because they like the apron and such, a medal, they will find this. Because it's like another circle. It's the same analogy as the Master Mason, you know. You get in your lodge, and sometimes you cannot talk openly because they could be enter apprentice, people who are just starting, so you cannot go too deep. And that on the chapter, you don't have that problems. Mm-hmm. And working together with others it's amazing. And here, I remember at the beginning I said about the difference between a brother and companion. Here, I believe with this question is the right moment to answer. Sometimes in your family, you have brothers, siblings. Not necessarily you get along with them. Could be yes, could be no. You know, it's sometimes with one yes, if you have more than one sibling and the other not, have frictions. It's normal in every family. But the definition of companion goes beyond that. Because a brother means, okay, you are part of the same family, but not necessarily you have the same values. Not necessarily you have the same ideals or the same interest. But the meaning of companion is a brother that you choose to take the same path. And when you understand that, and you are in front of another companion who understands that too and recognize you as a companion, look, the results are indescribable, and there are no limits where you can get in your thoughts and how powerful it is. Actually, I would say one of the biggest gifts I ever received from Freemasonry is not a secret. I am an immigrant in Canada, and because I arrived at old age, so sometimes it's not easy to have those friends, real friends like in your childhood. And I got a friend. I don't know if I can mention his name because you know him. But we met in a lodge. We started to visit together, having few discussions, few connections. But we only have worked together in a chapter. And yes, he is my best friend. I talk to him almost every day, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and without the chapter, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I think I know who this is, who you're talking about. Clearly,
could be. Yeah,
but clearly, I've seen the photos. But But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. The way you just broke down companions, absolutely beautiful. Something we probably feel, but we have not been able to express. You found the right words to say it. The companion really is a brother who you choose. And I've actually enjoyed this body of the craft the most because of that reason. I find the guys, particularly in chapter and in our chapter, just the most stellar, absolutely amazing guys, because they're all there because they want to be a part of that. They all enjoy the experience. They enjoy reliving the experience over and over again. They enjoy having the visitors, as you said, the visitors come and they can be interactive. We had a guy, I'll just say his first name because it's not connectable, but Thomas. Thomas came, he's from a different chapter, but he came and he got to be a part of the ritual when he was there last meeting. He's like, hey, Thomas, get up. You're in it now. What? Oh, okay. Hey, if we had visited him in Blue Lodge, that would never happen. So all those things that you mentioned are absolutely beautiful. And I'm glad that you were able to express them today, because York Rite, Holy Royal Arch, all these degrees, that this chapter, it's a lot more than just you're getting another word in a handshake. This is what makes it so special. And I hope anybody that's listening to this podcast would say, okay, these guys tried to capture the essence of what makes it so beautiful beyond the words and the extra knowledge and the passwords and the handshakes and things like that. They really captured something special here. So to anybody who's listening, Oscar, I will ask you, to anybody who's listening and they're on the fence about it, they're curious, but they're a little bit unsure, what would you say to this person?
I would say follow your curiosity. Curiosity is a good thing. Because if you look, every invention in the world start with a curiosity. Somebody at some point said, how, if I'm here, I could communicate with somebody some kilometers away. So Graham Bell thought about it and invented the telephone. And if you think about every invention, it's about curiosity. Start with that curiosity on how to do things. And that curiosity, to all the brothers who are listening, as you say, are curious but unsure, you don't need to have it all figured out. Just give that first step, or talk to us, ask questions. It's not necessarily, you don't have to send an application right away. You can just start talking. We are very open to answer questions without giving any pressure to join or anything, because we don't do that. Actually, in our chapter, we are very cautious about who enter and who is not, because we now are working into that philosophy of friendship and brotherly love and we want to keep that. So if somebody is just there because, I don't know, because they like the apron, there are other chapters and we can refer them to the other chapters also. We are not selfish, but we want what is the best for our brothers. So if there is a brother who is actually serious and looking to improve themselves, to know more, and to work with amazing people, I believe, well, at least Fairmount chapter is amazing. So we are just ask questions. We are not about recruiting. We are about probably inviting into something meaningful, but when you are ready. Only when you're ready.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I second that. I second that motion. All in favor, no contrary minded. Excellent companion, Oscar. It was a pleasure to speak with you today, as always. I always enjoy our conversations together, whether it's coming from a lodge somewhere off in the countryside and driving back, or it's after a presentation that we have within the chapter. I always enjoy our conversations, and today was a special one. As usual. So
thank you very much for having me. And I just would like to say one last thing about our amazing chapter.
Yes.
We love education, Masonic education, and we care about the experience. We are not just conferring degrees. We are cultivating understanding. So we take the time to mentor, to discuss, and to build that real sense of brotherhood. So I would say to all, if you want more than a title, if you want real transformation, this is the place.
Exactly. Perfect way to end it. Thank you very much, excellent companion Oscar. To those who are listening, thank you. Please consider subscribing, following, leaving a comment on the video. We'll see the comments and we will respond to them as soon as we can. And feel free to visit us if you're in the Montreal area or ever plan to be. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great evening.